Hi there, I'm Gideon Rose, editor of Foreign Affairs. Welcome to another edition of Foreign Affairs Focus. Today we have the great privilege of speaking with Kenn Cukier, who is the data editor of The Economist and the co-author of a wonderful new book on big data, which also happens to be a great piece in our May-June issue. So Kenn, welcome. What is big data and why should we care about it?
Well, what we're finding is that there's more information than ever before, and we can do entirely new things with it that we never could do before. It's going to become, if you will, the oil of the information age. Data is becoming a new source of value. It is becoming a raw material for other businesses, and as a result, there's greater things that society can learn by the presence of having a huge abundance of data that we never could actually before when we only had small amounts. But of course, there's also dangers, because at the same time as we can do extraordinary things with this tool that we couldn't do before, we have new worries in society that we're really unaccustomed to handling.
How is this different from, let's say, the initial datafication of society in the mid-19th century, in which statistics emerged and people realized they could get a purchase on social life and nature by the use of things like statistics?
Okay, well, the first thing is that there is a similarity to that period now. We're doing somewhat similar things, but we're doing it at 1/1,000,000th of the cost. And certainly in terms of collecting the data, certainly, in terms of processing the data as well. But the project that you're referring to, both the quantification of reality, to give it a term, and then the way with which we mathematize our understanding and lack of certainty about something through statistics, cropped up during that period for a small data universe, and in particular, that was quantification. What we're doing now, if you will, is datafication. We're taking things that were always informational, but we never considered it as informational, rendering it into a data form so that we can process it in multiple ways, not simply for one purpose, but for many. So let me give you an example. You're sitting right now, and you would never have really thought of the way that you're sitting as informational. However, the way you sit and the way I sit are different. So you can imagine if we have 30 sensors underneath a car seat, the car seat will be able to identify with a high degree of accuracy who the person is who's driving. So if I steal your keys and try to go into your Lamborghini and drive somewhere, it's going to say, no, I'm not an approved driver, only Gideon can drive his Lamborghini. What can we do with that information? Well, the first thing we could imagine would be an anti-theft device. But the second thing is, if all the cars have this, we can learn from the aggregate information. And one thing we might see is, what is the telltale shift in posture 30 seconds prior to an accident? Maybe what we've done is we've datafied driver fatigue. And if we know that, we can see that when you're driving and you move into that position, the car will send you an alert. It might vibrate the steering wheel, or you might hear a chime within the car that says, hey, wake up. You know, an accident might happen.
So using statistical patterns and large amounts of data to sort of anticipate what's going to happen next, are we in the world of Minority Report and Precogs and things like that?
Well, that's the risk, right? Of course, the idea in Minority Report is you had the crime of what was called pre-crime, that the clairvoyance could tell that crime was going to be committed before it happened, and we penalized a person for that. I think society is wise enough that we're not actually going to do that in a very blunt way like it was done in science fiction. But I really do think that the risk is that bureaucracies and organizations will do it all the time in subtle ways that are also troubling. So it's not about a crime and going to jail for it, but it is about anything that could be an infraction, or the likelihood of committing an infraction and a penalty. So you can imagine, what if you are a young man and the prediction algorithm has you nailed for shoplifting with a 95% degree accuracy sometime in the next 24 months. And so a social worker, well-meaning, the nanny state, the well-meaning state, comes in and says, well, we want to have a caseworker do a door knock, talk to the child, talk to the parents, and just let it be known that this is the case and we want to give you support. We want to see that we can get you an after-school job. We want to get you off this track. Well, just the stigmatization, both in society's eyes as well as that individual's eyes, that this is taking place, looks bad. And of course, the individual has absolutely the right case to say, your algorithm says 95%, I'm going to be part of the 5% that's going to do the right thing. where is my moral choice? So you might imagine where the criminal justice system has always looked at a crime being committed and prosecuted that. Here, as society, we have to realize that these prediction algorithms are not perfect, and we might want to somehow enshrine the sanctity of human volition and free will.
We all watched Nate Silver call the election better than all the political pundits, and we watched the Obama administration campaign do a great job and run circles around others. Is that an example of the kinds of manipulation and accumulation of data that you're talking about?
It's a small example. Nate's performance was very impressive, but he'd be the first one to say that it's not big data. Nate's genius is he's just listening to the data in an environment where people don't, right? That's really special and that's good, but it's really not big data. That's just simply the same statistics that we've used for decades taken seriously. Obama, it's a little bit trickier. There, it looks big data-ish, and the reason why is what they were able to do was micro-target to a very fine degree of specificity. That was never done before, right? They were polling more people, polling them more often, looking down into the deep roots of demographics, looking how certain ads changed at certain very local markets. They were buying into cable television shows at times that was never being purchased just 4 and 8 years earlier, simply because they had the data on when that demographic that they wanted to appeal to were tuned in. In one instance, some of that cable viewership data was by the second. Right? So that does now look very big data-ish, because then they also polled to see the effectiveness of it. It was a constant iterative game that they were playing. I think politics is forever changed because of this.
Kenn Cukier, big data, a trend coming to all of us, and very soon. Thank you very much.